Hello, everyone. This is Close to the People with Stefan Bertram. I'm joined today by Kuba and Quinn. And today we're going to be talking about sex. This is both a topic that I'm deeply interested in, and one which, in some sense, is the most important possible topic of human discussion and enterprise. But in the same sense, in the same way, I can't help but just constantly think of stupid jokes.
I mean, who doesn't love a stupid joke?
I mean, hopefully not our audience, because if they don't like stupid jokes, then they've been having a torrid time.
Yeah.
Well, don't speak before. This is one of the topics we're going to be finding out. As I mentioned in the description, Kuba's curious if young people actually be having sex.
According to everything that's distributed among the olds, young people are simultaneously the most sexually deviant and promiscuous generation ever that is going to bring down the pillars of morality upon which Western civilization rests. And also they are not doing their procreative duty because they're unlovable incels who can't possibly be bothered to leave their parents' basements, even in the throes of the mating season. And when they do encounter an eligible member of the opposite sex, they're immediately like, ew, gross, where's the Instagram filter?
I mean, it is interesting, because obviously that is a large part of what the incel dimension is, right? Because incels don't just have the feeling that they're not having sex, but that this exists in a cultural context of like never known before sexual freedom. And while they're not having sex, and to them it feels as if they're like, they can't have a drop of water despite living right by the river or whatever. And this also leads to the idea that actually the problem, it seems strange, but the problem for them, they think, is that sexual freedom has led to them not having sex.
Well,
I was going to say that I think for them, they see sexual freedom specifically as the freedom for women not to have sex with them.
Yeah.
And they don't like that.
The freedom of women to withhold sex from otherwise odious men. And therefore, the solution is to create sufficient conditions of general female desperation so that the odious men are back in the driver's seat.
Though, to be clear, it depends. It's not very explicit, but there's basically an idea among incels of like, there's a very small minority of men who be having the sex, most of the sex, due to kind of like differences in willingness to have sex. There's like a few guys out there who basically have like an informal harem. And then there's basically like a layer of cuck guys below them. But actually in their conception, it's not like there's a tiny minority of odious men or whatever, but rather that they're kind of representing the oppressed sexual class.
They, like the Andrea Dworkin feminists, concur on the fact that most men are odious men, right? Like the whole idea that the fundamental intrinsic sexual nature of maleness is one which, maybe they shouldn't most have sex. And indeed, there would be a small number of the least terrible that seem relatively acceptable to female partners under voluntary conditions. And yeah, those guys clean up. To put it in slightly different terms, and the way that classic incels sum it up is with the concept of hypergamy.
Yeah.
The notion that...
Is how I pronounce it. I thought it was hypergamy. Shows what I know.
I've always found that to get the right pronunciation, do the opposite of your instincts. And the idea being...
I'm going to start saying tomato.
No, I mean, it's obviously tomato, right?
Sorry, you're right.
I'll have some tomatoes with Transit, please. Oh my God, that is an enormous tomato. The
We got to be careful. I think Quentin Tarantino is getting excited.
um, but yeah, the notion of hypergamy based is based on the observation that women prefer, as part of what they look at when they choose sexual partners, is the status and resources that male may bring into the relationship or deliver to the woman,
A
deliver to the female.
very fun thing about kind of conventional female sexuality is that women often, I think it's a scientific fact or whatever, have a preference for men who are successful in relationships, which on the surface seems completely pro-social and reasonable, right? But then you think about it for a second, you're like, actually, no, that's socially disastrous. That's really bad.
Yeah,
The successfully in relationship man is meant to already be
yeah,
taken.
he's supposed to be
Obviously, why
precisely.
it's why
Well, that's
the widow was the sexiest man before 1900.
well, that is presuming, of course, that you're in a society which is practicing official monogamy, right? And the one of the observations made by Dan Savage when he made his more academic, intellectual, comparative, historical turn in his sex advice column. For those of you who don't recall rotary phones, Dan Savage was a very formative, one might even say seminal, um, sex columnist from the 1990s and early 2000s. He wrote for The Onion, but like seriously. And he was one of the first mainstream platform queer advice columnists
Mm.
too. And when the gender wars, Gender Warriors 7, More Gender, More Fury, was happening in the 90s around the issue of gay marriage and civil unions, he made the observation that, well, the culture, normies in the culture as a whole, assume that there's a monogamy norm that's enforced among heterosexuals. That's simply not the case. Historically, generally, monogamy was enforced on women, at least women of a certain class. And then, men, through concubinage, through maintaining mistresses, and through sex workers, basically had a polygamous lifestyle that was easily
Right, and
available to
obviously,
them.
like, what's notable about kind of like middle modernity, whatever you want to call it, like the peak of modernity of the middle 20th century, was these things that were previously separate. Like the Romans were incredibly anxious about being monogamous, but this monogamy meant for them, one wife, one family. That didn't necessarily have to do with kind of your actual sexual practice, which often, of course, involved men. Um, Monogamy didn't mean I only have sex with this particular woman, but rather that I'm in a marital union which bounds me for life, and I will only have a family within this union. But that doesn't really imply anything for what I might do sexually generally, what my sexual practice is.
Yeah, and there's a number of developments that come with Christianity, which lay the groundwork for a lot of contemporary normie thinking about sex, family, status of individuals. Because, one consequence of having this constrained family creation, procreative sex around these institutions, but then not really having any limits on ex officio recreational sex, is that the recreational sex, especially once you've eaten down that one magical contraceptive plant that only grew in Libya, um, you create regularly, routinely, as a matter of course, generations and generations of children without a, a designated legally enforceable male protector or status, which in a slave society is awesome. It's great, right? Like you just get to see the line go up, except the line is the number of children that are property. And so the notion that you have a fundamentally unequal society and one in which slavery is not necessarily racialized or specifically gone through descent. It's just bad luck. This half brother was born inside the manor, and he gets to inherit. That half brother was born in the stable and is now property. But there's an awareness that, like, really not that different. The Also, the idea that somebody might have all kinds of interests in non-procreative sex, with partners of the same gender, with partners of different genders, with multiple partners at once, that was just a matter of taste. With Christianity and the notion of a properly sort of divinely construed sexual order, the notion of natural right, right? You begin to be able to condemn all kinds of sexual practices as fundamentally disordered, deviant, and perverse, rather than legally illicit because it's with the wrong person. But there's no possible way to do gay sex with the right person within this legal and religious context. The Romans, the Greeks, they were not judgmental about it, right? Like, you do this, you can't make your boy lover necessarily your heir, or it might not be respectable in the
Right. I think
sense
there was a
of,
lot of sexual practice in Rome that was like embarrassing or effeminate, but it was never executable
yes,
or even
yes,
like very,
exactly.
very rarely illegal.
Yes, and certainly you can laugh at somebody for it, but you can't condemn them. And the notion that it carries some kind of moral taint, that it's something that is guilty, you should feel guilty about rather than simply kind of shameful or embarrassing. That's those are the limitations. But then, you enter a medieval age where high Christianity takes its imagined version of the punitive afterlife and just fills layer on layer and layer of hell with different types of sexual deviations, which in no way can possibly be turning the poet on.
It is a bit of an interesting question why they bothered doing it, apart from just maybe because the Israelites were really anxious about it.
The So my guess with a lot, not just the sexual taboos, but even almost more so the dietary taboos of the Israelites as
Like,
communicated.
generally, the Israelites seemed like such a miserable fucking people.
Correct. Yes, they did. And the not a lot of good times to be had wandering the desert, especially when you have all of these sexual strictures that also come down from God. But the it seems as though they're surrounded by diverse communities around them that don't practice those taboos, and differentiation, kind of ethnogenesis, begins by taking the things that those other guys do and like and making them illegal for yourself. So we're the people who don't eat pork. We're the people who don't practice male on male sodomy. Um, we we are not pederasts except with girls, which is totally fine, and God says it's okay, especially if they're my property, which is also something we're totally fine with. And that process of creating barriers, especially between linguistically linked groups, is at the heart of ethnogenesis, and I think begins to explain how Judaism establishes itself as a distinct religious tradition and ethno-national community that lives on to this day.
Yeah, I think it also probably has something to do with like Christian universalism, like feeling the need to have like the transition from Israelites who are like miserable, terrible people, but at least they don't force other people to do it. They'll just kill you. While Christianity adopted a lot of their morality, but then it was also like, well, okay, this needs to apply to everyone equally. Well, I was going back and reading Aristotle
As one
for
does.
this podcast. I was reading Strabo's Geography earlier. I was going back and reading Aristotle for this, and it's incredible how anti-universalist he is. Because there's only one bit in the Nicomachean Ethics where he mentions pederasty. He mentions the relationship of a lover and a beloved, of the relationship between, which is the term used in translation for what we understand to be the pederastic relationship in ancient Greece. Though the beloved is probably a lot older on average than the person that's generally imagined by the contemporary audience. But when he's discussing pederasty, as in which he understands as like a foreign thing, he discusses it in the case of like barbaric tribes, and he discusses how these barbaric tribes will engage in pederasty, as in they'll have sex with children, children as he understands them. They will engage in cannibalism. They'll kill their own mothers. They'll eat their own mothers, and so on like this. But that's not a point to demonstrate that these people are evil. It's exactly He's exactly arguing in the section that these people are not incontinent, that they do not have the vice of incontinence, because vice and virtue can't be applied to these people. It's irrelevant to them because they're far beyond anything that could be described as morality. There's no vice when they do these crimes because they're just not moral subjects in any relevant way. And he actually, in this situation, compares them to women who obviously don't, or are also not virtuous or vicious in this manner. He says, in addition to these pederasty, for these arise in some by nature, and in others, as in those who've been the victim of lust from childhood, from habit. Now those in whose nature is the cause of such a state no one would call incontinent, any more than one would apply the epithet to a woman, because of the passive part they play in copulation, nor would one apply it to those who are in a morbid condition as a result of habit. To have these various types of habit is beyond the limits of vice, as brutishness is too. For a man who has them to master or be mastered by them is not incontinent, but that which is by so analogy as a man who's in the condition in respect of fits of anger is to be incontinent in respect to that feeling, but not incontinent simply. So yeah, barbarians and women just don't bother talking about them. And this is, I think, the most interesting thing about ancient Greek sexuality, in contrast to what is often understood. I think ancient Greek sexuality shows the most positive example of male homosexuality and its practice and acceptance by society prior to the contemporary world. But this is at the cost of the total exclusion of women from social life in every way.
Yeah, so incel shit.
You win some, you lose some.
Well, I think this is, I guess, maybe closer to MGTOW shit.
Yeah. Men going their own way, Kuba.
I find one interesting point in what you brought up, the notion, the distinction between a moral category for passive versus active sex. Like, one reason why you can't judge women is because since they're on the passive side, they don't really get a vote.
Yeah.
Right. especially since notions of consent being the cornerstone of licit, proper sexual intercourse are relatively recent, right? The marital rape provisions were struck down, like 2007 or something, in the United States. Let's look that up.
Yeah, I think it was early 90s here.
Marital rape became a crime only in 1993. North Carolina and Oklahoma were the holdouts. The and then I mean, more recently, apparently up until the 2020s, there was an exemption for different categories of like statutory rape related to unconscious or drugged partners.
Huh.
Like that's ongoing. You know,
Yeah.
it used to be that you could just do whatever you wanted with your wife. Well, with your spouse, I suppose.
Yeah, and I guess the
Then again,
present state is that there's now like an implicit state of consent, but that can be violated in extreme circumstances.
yes, and also, right, there were previous requirements that if a party was going to be pursuing a rape prosecution, you had to demonstrate violent resistance. Because if anything short of trying to gouge out eyes during the entirety of the act, if at any point you went passive, then that was a form of consent that could be then used to justify a rapist.
Yeah, I mean,
And
notably when Aristotle discusses the beloved and the loved, the beloved and the lover, um, the beloved is not in any way demonstrated as like a passive person in this relationship, but whenever he discusses them, it's about how these two actors are constantly acting upon each other. While I think the common perception is that the beloved was viewed as passive in the way that a woman was, but this is absolutely not the case. And the kind of anxiety around the beloved is often kind of the degree to which their activity can drive like an older man to distraction and so on. He has quite an extended section discussing how the older man will often demand from the younger man that he be like called beautiful in the same way that the older man is meant to call the younger man beautiful. And Aristotle is like, but often the older man is not at all beautiful, so it's unreasonable for him to demand this. And that you should only demand that your twink calls you beautiful if you are in fact beautiful.
So the real sin is demanding affirmations when they're lies.
Yeah, it's just demanding, because obviously, his whole concern is virtue. So if you lack the virtue of beauty, you shouldn't falsely demand that it be ascribed to you.
yeah, the real victim here is the 10-point scale of hotness. And if we don't no longer have integrity in 10-point scales of hotness, then where are we as a civilization?
Yeah, we are reduced to the binary.
We're back to the condition of barbarism, and at that point, right, we're even beyond vice.
Of course, yes.
This is the ancient predecessor to Facebook's hot or not origins.
Exactly,
but of course,
exactly.
Kuba brought up the kind of evolution of rape and sexual assault, and the word originates from the Latin rapte, which means just to take away generically. But there was a very interesting rapte, which is what's called now the rape of the Sabine women, which is a mythical story from early Roman society, where having this fear that the newly founded Rome, which has mainly been founded out of local bandits and so on, is not going to be able to reproduce itself as a polity. Romulus makes great efforts to try and bring in marriageable women, which was of course like a large concern in the North American colonies also. But having failed to do that, he goes and finds they attack the Sabine. But I don't know. I'm obviously pronouncing all these words wrong. Don't worry about it. They go and attack some people, and they take away all their women and steal them back to Rome. At which point they're attacked by these people, and the battle goes on. The Romans are losing until finally these women throw themselves in between the two armies and declare that they don't want both groups to fall into like en masse failure of civic virtue by, on one hand, killing their father-in-laws and their sons-in-laws and so on and so forth, such that they would all be patricidal killers or the other way around, which of course was an immense crime back in the day. Well, I suppose it still is, but not in the same sense. It's more other kinds of murders have equalized out with patricide. You can't kill slaves anymore and so on. People will find that.
I hear that patricide is actually has been decriminalized in the Portland Autonomous Zone.
Inshallah.
Yeah, or that may just be patriarchy side, right? Yeah, exactly. Capitol Hill Autonomous.
And it's a very interesting story because, of course, it shows kind of what the idea of rape back then was, and also like Livy's account of it, what his anxieties around it were, which is he has Romulus kidnapping these women, but then being like, but hold on, don't worry, you're going to be our wives. We're going to get married. Don't worry that you're going to not be married. And he also makes pain to emphasize that there was no rape, as we would understand it, like during the taking away, as so to demonstrate that the Romans were not given over to lust. This was not a project of lust. This was a project of civic reproduction. It was a necessity to reproduce the polity. And I think that's also,
we had tried for the artificial womb, but the technology just wasn't there.
Because that's the thing, of course, that as much as you could exclude women from public life, from thinking about them in ancient society, at the end, you obviously need to reckon with the fact that without women, you don't reproduce your society, and you disappear and you die. And so
without women, where would more men come from?
Exactly.
You can't get them all from the next town over.
But Livy has no problem with the general crime of bride kidnapping. Assuming such that the point is to become a bride.
Mm-hmm.
To steal away the women for other reasons would be wrong, especially as it was with co-religionists and so on. But to take away the women for bridal reasons is not something which is grappled with as a possible crime. Like, he's very, very anxious about the situation, and emphasizing the virtues of the Romans in this case, but not for the reasons that we would think.
Well, I would hasten to point out that when it came to procreative sex, until very, very recently, there was just no concept of agency for on the part of the woman at all. You were a type of property that first adhered with your father as master of the house, and then your father, as master of your house, and therefore your master, would transfer that property to a husband. A more enlightened paterfamilias, but only based on their own personal sensibility and individual character, may at his unique discretion pursue and solicit the opinion, the input of his daughter in the selection of her future husband, but this purely as an advisory capacity, and ultimately she would be handed off, sold. Maybe there would be some compensation, a dowry or a bride price changing hands depending on the particular fashion, but the notion that selection of partners is an appropriate venue for the exercise of female agency, that's new. That's new, and it doesn't come from the top either. It rather emerges from situations in which working class women, for reasons usually of scarcity, develop their own material base so that they aren't entirely dependent on a particular man. And I say particular man because often this could take the form of sex work, right? Where a whole bunch of men they're not supporting you, you're providing a service, you're making wages, but also there are other ways to independently make a living. And you had too many men with too few women to be able to enforce that traditional patriarchal structure. Your father might be far away, your father might be dead. Your brothers are off busy doing their own thing, chasing after the 5 women in all of Wyoming or Utah. And so you got to pick, and your suitors were not going to close ranks around maleness. Just like, there's something analogous to the way that whiteness is talked about being a collective, mutually reinforced social phenomenon that, white people are complicit in socially recreating. Well, similarly, patriarchy, it's not just the men who are compelling women to marry according to their father's will. It's not just the fathers and the suitors, but all of the other suitors who are like, well, I would really like to marry you, but your father says no, and I respect his vote, right? You get into situations where there's enough female scarcity, and the suitors are like, not only do I not respect your father, I'm going to kill all of the other guys who are acting like I should, because that'll clear the way to wedding bells for me and you, sweetheart.
I'm doing a public service by reducing the number of excess men.
Precisely.
Like I think this podcast could have been titled, if we wanted people not to watch it, like how societies have dealt with their excess men.
Well, war. War and colonialism are the two best ways. Slavery is a pretty good one. Human sacrifice, that also works. Monasticism, I guess if you faint at the sight of blood.
But monasticism was a good way to get rid of all of your second sons through most of European history. You got the the one that's like you actually got your eggs in that basket, but then the other one's like send them off to a monastery,
and
they're gonna turn up in one of those Dutch paintings of little chubby cheeked priests looking at a giant beer stein.
Yeah, and you can also, if they do well inside the monastic system or inside clerical hierarchies, then that can be a power center too, right?
Exactly.
Abbots and bishops could control landed estates, sometimes entire cities and provinces. But I'd like to go all the way back to the way back in the earliest Ooga Booga hominid phase, where we only have limited archaeological and anthropological records. I recall one book that was very influential when I was an undergraduate was an anthropology called Demonic Males, which basically made a
Cool.
biological essentialist argument against all primate species except bonobos. Feminists like bonobos, but everybody else is in the whether you're a chimpanzee, a gorilla, orangutan, or Homo sapien, hominid. The men are basically designed to be rapey, right?
Mm.
That's built in to the reproductive strategy of the species. It's not an accident. It's not a deviation. It's the process working as it should. And of course, Andrea Dworkin and radical feminists had been saying things similar outside of the social sciences already for decades. And, there's some level of truth to that. If you think about it, if you imagine conditions in the Middle Ages or earlier periods where there's no stable states, where violence is endemic, groups encounter one another and conflict often results, virtually every human being on the planet probably has a rapist ancestor, almost without a doubt. Like, you would have to be some kind of miracle baby.
Truly, like,
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the more interesting question is, why aren't all of our male ancestors rapists, right? Like, when did that stop? There are some hominid species, like apparently orangutan sex. I'm not an expert here, but my understanding, based on stuff that I've read a really long time ago, is that orangutan mating is especially rapey. They're very territorial animals that spend most of their time in solitude. They just don't like each other, full stop. So you're not just overcoming a physical reluctance, right, or a fear of harm from the female orangutan, but you also have to broach both sets of territorial taboos, right? So you can see why there might be a lot of resistance in during mating season. Now, this also creates very serious limitations on orangutan society. If you're hyper territorial, you're living by yourself in the jungle, you are fighting anybody who gets too close to you, and you're violent across gender lines, then you're not going to develop communities, tribes, clans. You're not going to have multi-individual cooperation that is necessary for more complicated types of society, and certainly for innovation, discovery, accumulation of knowledge. And it looked like early humans had a very serious constraint on sociability along the same lines. And this is not uncommon among many mammal species. For instance, the ancestors of elephants apparently also had a very serious problem with male territoriality. Elephants, and this goes into the historic record, right? When we started paying attention to elephants, the elephant groups were very limited in size and generally consisted of a dominant male and his harem. Some juvenile males were tolerated that were descended from the dominant male, but those would be driven out before they reached sexual purity. If two groups of elephants interacted, the males would fight and one would be driven off or killed, and the females would trade alignment. I guess that would be their opportunity to defect or find an even chattier chat. And then something strange happened. Apparently, there was some genetic line, some.
I was going to say, you're saying this has happened in the past 2,000 years, like since
this has happened in the past 2,000 years. There was the particular mutation or the particular genetic shift could have happened much earlier, but what has become visible over the past 2,000 years is that a small number of elephant groups emerged where fathers did not expel sons. So once the sons were sexually mature, the fathers tolerated them inside the troop, which meant the troop could be larger because there's now more males to patrol the females. And in case of combat, in case of encountering a hostile second group, you have two males fighting instead of one.
Yeah.
Which means you win more of those battles than you did before, which means you get to take on more female elephants in your harem, which means the pro-social males that tolerate their sons have more sons who
Right.
are then tolerated. And it creates a positive feedback loop until most of the male lineages among African elephants go extinct and are replaced with the pro-social ones.
I mean, but this is a very dangerous thing to evolve into, right? Because the larger your group that is, of a species that isn't agricultural, the possibility of a disastrous starvation event just gets higher and higher. And I assume that's why mammals don't generally associate in large groups, especially large mammals, because the danger of enormous famine and mass starvation is looming over all non-agricultural species, as in all of the non-human ones.
Depends entirely on, you're right, but that is an environmental constraint that occurs outside, right? You until you hit that ecological boundary, which then forces fragmentation, you're just grow and grow and grow and grow, because why
Yeah.
wouldn't you, right? And the thing is that if you are a ruminating nomadic species, then it's possible, depending on the productivity of the ecosystem, that you just have a giant herd of elephants that moves around a lot. The
Right, because
grasses
now
are
some of them are
productive.
really big, aren't they?
Yeah. And what we can also compare this to buffalo, right? When the ecosystem is changed by the introduction of Europeans, you have an explosion in buffalo numbers. The plains native groups that had been hunting them, using traditional means that are obviously less effective than a buffalo gun, but you could still get a lot of buffalo that way. They go away, so you no longer have a predator constraint. The Great Plains are productive enough so you could have these oceanic sized buffalo herds. And similarly, human beings, there's a hypothesis that this process, which is described as self-domestication in animals,
Yeah.
right, that they themselves are taking the same steps that human beings have bred into certain livestock species. There's until the early 20th century, there was a wild bovine in Europe called the auroch.
Mm.
The last specimen died in the zoo in Warsaw, I think, in the 1920s. And I learned about this because it was a Polish joke, right? What's in the Polish zoo? A cow! Ha ha ha! These people, they're so stupid and primitive, and you belong to them. You should feel bad about your heritage, you disgusting Slavic Untermensch. Ha ha ha. That but there were substantial differences between the auroch and domesticated cattle. Less in the morphology, because it kind of looked like a giant shaggy bull,
Yeah.
but in the behavior. The aurochs did not like sharing space with others of their species. They were very territorial. They were very timid when it came to people. And those habits of behavior are really bad in a livestock species. You want to be able to concentrate them together. You want them.
This is our non-live sex talk.
Yeah, we recorded all this hours ago.
Mm-hmm. I'm especially impressed with them for recording that statement, just nailing the progression of the chat.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's a quite complex conspiracy. I mean, I hope you all appreciate it.
Stefan
Quinn,
and I had a little, sniff of the old spice, and
Yes.
we saw it.
well, to tie up where I was going to finally unbelabor my point, there's a hypothesis to explain a genetic phenomenon that was discovered in human archaeology, that that about 10,000 years ago or so, there was a Y chromosome bottleneck.
Yeah.
90% of the Y chromosome lineages, 90% of the male lineages die out, but diversity along the X chromosome is preserved. And doing simulations, looking at different possible scenarios that might account for this, the most persuasive, most elegantly fit model was that of a general male on male genocide, where 10% of the male lineages wiped out the remaining 90%. And this has been interpreted by some anthropologists as a case of exactly that self-domestication. That the most toxic, most aggressive, least cooperative males, the ones that were extraordinarily territorial, like Craster's Keep type dudes, from Game of Thrones. The ones.
First thing we have to do is kill all the rapists.
Yes.
Yeah, all the beta males got together and stabbed the Chads to death.
Well, that's the thing. If you're a proper beta, right, then you're waiting for the opportunity to take over and become an alpha, right? You're driven by resentment, and weakness is your fundamental characteristic, not cooperativeness.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about beta males. We're not talking about people who had been an alliance of losers. I think, as with the elephants, we're talking about a few family lines in which fathers, when the sons come of age, are like, you know what, you can stay.
Yeah.
You can stay, and maybe you can actually help me. Maybe I'll teach you how to make fire, how to make weapons, right? Just don't stab me in the back and rape your mom. Okay, that's all I ask. That's all I ask. I've got one rule here. Do you think you can handle that?
And that rule was probably like there was probably 1,000 false starts where he just stabbed his father to death and raped his mother.
Exactly. And then one day, and that's actually the monolith scene from 2001: A Space Odyssey, right? Like the hominid is standing over his sleeping father, like with the death rock, and then you see the calculus explode in his mind, and it's like, put rock down, take women from other monkeys.
And yeah, as people are saying in the chat, this evolution probably had a lot to do with what women were saying.
Oh, and you can imagine too, right, the level of loyalty that female might express to, like the male rapist tribal leader guy who doesn't kill or drive off his son.
And then on the other side, obviously, some sons really like their moms. And you get this whole new situation when you actually get to grow fully to adulthood and then remain with your mother.
Yeah. Like you're not cast out. And think about that too, right? Best case scenario, if you have the most enlightened Craster rapist dad that you can imagine, you send out the boys as a group, which is actually really stupid because as soon as they like get into the tree line, they're like, okay, so we're just going to go back and kill the old man, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
we're just going to leave and never come back. Like, men going their own way was really a thing before agriculture.
Well, men going their own way almost always ended up with these men going their own way, but then getting in the way of a bunch of women and other men over there.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, you don't just keep going your own way. Yeah, of course you have to find some of the guys and fucking kill them. I mean, you just don't come back.
Yeah. So that shift, one, it looks like to get to a level of sociability, to level up the sociability of the species as a whole, in terms of self-domestication, you needed a 90% die-off of the male lines. Like 90% of the male lines could not survive this as a test. Who knows? Some of them may have been good ones that just got wiped out for standard war reasons, but maybe they didn't even get all of the bad ones. After all, Andrew Tate still exists, so some of those genetics clearly got smuggled back in. But that was a radical shift, right? Moving from one form of territoriality that imposed certain social structures to a different, more permissive and adaptive social set of relations. And not only that, but like women get into play at that point too, because the aggression that dominant solo males, that's the entire basis of their power. I'm bigger, I'm stronger, I'll do whatever I want to whoever I want. Once you have alliances being the bedrock of survival within the group, you get chimp politics, right? Where individual relations matter and women can participate.
And
then you're
also
off to the
forces
races.
humans to become very complex social animals. The most complex social animals.
The women are the most complex social animals?
No, I mean the humans that have been forced to live in societies of more than 8 people are forced to become incredibly complex social animals who are constantly mirroring each other's minds and so on. Quinn, what did you want to talk about vis-a-vis sex? You haven't said anything.
So I'm sorry, I've been like reading the chat because Kush looks on their little like trophy.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Kush, it's fine that you don't like trans people, but if you constantly try and like force everyone in chat to talk about that, I will just ban or mute you or whatever, because like you're accusing us of presentism, and then the whole time in chat you've been like, when are you going to talk about the current relationships of trans stuff right now? And it's like, no, I'm going to talk about monkeys in 30,000 BC. Shut up.
And we're talking about antiquity, right? But this idea
that you fucking retard. Sorry.
Yes, we are personally medical practitioners, and I actually do all of the trans surgery. I'm the one making everyone trans.
But only for children.
Yes, only for children. Once they turn 18, they have to do it themselves.
We're a little like Epstein in that way, in that we have no interest above a certain age with the genitals of potential, partners, but we're also only interested in surgically mutilating them, right? That's the official position of this podcast and all other TIR shows.
Yeah.
I think that there is a kind of problem for the modern transphobe if we're looking at kind of gender expression in antiquity, because there was, even though like what we now kind of understand as a bimodal distribution was definitely understood historically as a binary. Yep, that's the one. The permeability of that binary was like it being like a real impermeable barrier between the two, like, genders that we construct out of the pillars of sex, was not actually that's a recent like invention in kind of human society. Like, I think that we had talked a little bit about the some of the legal, like the legal malehood of certain female leaders, certain queens. If we look back at some of the conversations we were having about the Northmen, the seers, their gender presentation was like totally out of what would be normal for biological men, if that's even a category that we can ascribe to like their kind of gender presentation. It's and the really like, okay, we have these categories. Let's, in a very like second wave feminism, really like defend kind of nebulous, a little bit fuzzy, very modern concepts. Seems a little like it's intellectually fraught, and there's some inconsistencies there.
I would say I
apart
don't
from
mind.
denying the agency of trans people.
I don't mind if you post anti-trans stuff in chat. I do mind if you completely derail the whole conversation to a topic
Sure.
that we weren't talking about the entire time and get everyone mad at you. If you can somehow do this without everyone getting mad at you, or do it in a way which doesn't derail the whole chat into it, go ahead. But otherwise, yes, please don't.
Well,
I
wonder. Please.
No, I was going to say the one thought I had about like kind of sexuality and the kind of cycles of kind of openness and then like prudishness, or I guess that maybe is the best word for it. But it's Christmas, Merry Christmas, those who celebrate. I decided to celebrate by rewatching the 1973 film version of Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh.
And
Heretic.
Sure. It's to me, it was interesting that the Israelites in that depiction are just straightforwardly hippies. They are like
fascinating.
In like it's a little bit like kind of fourth wall breaking, because the opening of the shot is them all piling out of the van and then starting to construct the sets that are then performed over. So it's complicated a little bit by the fact that like it's kind of an edifice, but if we look at them as the kind of the hippie generation, then the Christendom that follows them is the kind of growing out of that. It's the boomers like growing out of their new left roots into neoconservatism on like a kind of historical stage.
I can say, which is also interesting because I guess this is already, I mean, the film in 1973 was at best the very start of that process.
Yes.
So, right. So it's predictive of it rather than reflecting it.
Exactly.
And so one thing that I find, one area where I don't think there's enough discussion around transphobia and homophobia, there's a really interesting moral psychologist named Jonathan Haidt that he's kind of a right-wing guy that then undercuts my ability to bring him up. But he has an interesting fundamental intuition about moral reasoning, which is that our moral judgment stems not from a rational ideological evaluation, but we have a moral intuition that basically hits us as an emotional response, and then we struggle to validate it.
Yeah.
And he supposes he's identified 4 or 5 fundamental moral dyads that poles where between things like harm and care, or purity and filth, that can trigger moralized emotions. And when it comes to issues around homosexual intercourse or gender transition, there's a body horror element to it for a certain type of person, right? Like some really
I mean,
devoted
we're just
homophobes.
objectively at a stage of development where it is a very much an icky process and then an icky end
Yes,
result.
yes. There's just the nature of the surgery, which was unavailable. Trans people have existed for as long as mankind. Just those types of categories didn't exist, and the surgical alternatives were unavailable to them. But people lived as the opposite gender basically in every culture that instantiated gender roles. You know, you can see it among Native Americans. There was an obituary recently for the last Albanian female patriarch of a clan, and she was born female, but because she was the only member of a particular generation and they needed a leader for the clan at that time, she lived as a man. Everybody in the community, everyone in the society acknowledged her manhood, at least after the first couple that didn't got stabbed. And then this continued all the way. You know, I don't know if she married. I don't know if he married. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with genders
I mean,
pronouns
traditionally
here.
they don't, the ones in Albania.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know. Actually, I think that's like the conception of it. Obviously, the reality is normally much more messy, but I think that example is also useful for demonstrating that, well, it often has a very little to do with how we currently, like the fact that obviously these genders and these desires existed, but how they were filtered could be quite radically different to ours, because as we see here, while obviously she was probably like, well, I would quite like to volunteer. This was brought about by a social structure. It was within a social space and whatever, and was not necessarily her idea.
yes, and
I just want to
but
say
this is,
quickly, Dizzle,
yeah,
in the chat, I think sex work is beyond the scope of this discussion right now.
yes, like just looking at people like non-conforming gender expression across time, right? What's new in the case of the contemporary trans movement is that there are surgical opportunities available that when you think about them from just the experience of like what it would do to a body, they can come across like body horror, right? Like, you know, any kind of surgery. My dad had a quadruple bypass on his heart earlier this year. So imagine telling somebody, even somebody from like a really intense metal culture, like a Japanese samurai or an Aztec warrior, that yeah, we're going to cut into a man's chest, go through the rib cage, spread it open, and then sew new blood vessels that we've taken out of his leg in order to circumvent the blood, and then we're gonna tie it all back together, and there's gonna be blood everywhere, and it's gonna take like all day. They'd be like, that is the most metal thing I've ever heard. Are you sure you're not just gonna yank out the heart and offer it to Quetzalcoatl? Similarly, these gender reassignment surgery might be extremely therapeutic for the person involved in it, but for every bystander, it's like, damn, right?
Yeah.
That's wow, and on your junk too, you know, where all the nerve endings are, right? That's wow, ooh, geez. And I think that
And also, you know, an
that
organ that you're very much familiar with, which is, of course, the problem for lots of trans
yes,
people with. But compared to your heart, you know it very well, and you see it each day, and so on and so forth.
yes,
Yeah, I don't imagine you two have gotten to see many of your internal organs.
I know what it smells like when my bone burns, but yeah,
Nice.
dental surgery.
Hmm.
Don't
I've got.
recommend.
I can send it to you guys later. I think I've got a picture of my kidney when they popped it out, which is it's seeing your organs is weird, man. Like there is that kind of like real body horror around almost any kind of surgery that the more you think about it, the more kind of detail you describe it in, the more it's like, oh, this is like a, you know, a foreign alien intervention into something that I think of as cohesive in my
I
body.
mean, it makes perfect sense, right? Because in the ancestral environment, those sorts of woundings were had 100% fatality rate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and and in that way, there's something unnatural about every type of surgery, let alone gender transition surgery. And I think that a lot of people cannot distinguish this intense reaction, this combination of fear, revulsion, profound unease associated with the procedure that they then transfer onto individuals that may not even be medically transitioning, just the
Right,
trans
yeah, of
movement
course.
as a whole.
I would say I think it is kind of quite culturally possible to overcome with this, because I think people still basically all find the idea of gay sex disgusting if they're not gay. But people are largely able to
Well,
decouple this in Western society
uh,
from what the law should be.
I would caveat that I do think there's a significant portion of heterosexual women who definitely, I don't know if they think about the mechanics that much, but the popularity with there was an adaptation of a book that was recently popular, Heated Rivals is the title of that, which is
Yeah, Boy
it's
Aquarium.
yeah, it's just it's like a, you know, kind of standard romance just between two men, and that kind of thing. Heterosexual women love it.
I mean, I would say that to get really woke, I think basically universally when women authors portray male homosexual sex, what they're actually portraying is vaginal sex.
The
Sure.
Well, also, right, there exists a substantial set of exclusive homosexuals that, especially on the male side, that find everything about female anatomy disgusting.
Yeah.
Right? The people's brains are bizarrely wired when it comes to that disgust impulse. And I think one of the most dangerous, I think that hate is onto something, that disgust is a moral emotion, right? One of the reasons why we think of something
Oh,
wrong.
I'm saying 100%. It's just with great social effort that may be overcome, but there's also a constant threat of backsliding towards this disgust.
Yes. And I think that one of when you're describing a concentrated social effort to destigmatize homosexuality, one measure that's taken is to de-emphasize gay sex, right? De-emphasize the whole rectal entry element of it.
Penetrative gay
Now,
sex.
penetrative gay sex, yes. And similarly, right, like you can basically tell how homophobic a particular piece of media is by how hot they make their examples of homosexuality, right? If it's fat hairy men like in Borat, right? Like that's, that it's on the homophobic side. I think that in general, stepping away from treating disgust as a legitimate source for moral judgment, broadly speaking, as a whole, is what is healthy for society and is what gets you to greater toleration of non-normative forms of sexuality or gender identity. As soon as you legitimate disgust, that like, because I think something is gross, that justifies my moral outrage around it. That's a very direct highway to banning all kinds of sexual expression that some people don't like. Now, I think it's the important insight here is that it's entirely possible for something to just be disgusting without being evil.
Yeah.
You don't have to like it. You can think it's terrible. You don't have to be in the room. You don't have to, and this is one place where I do see some validity to reactionary complaints about things like gay pride feeling mandatory. Just like there should be no pressure to celebrate Christmas, there should be no pressure to validate, justify, or endorse gay pride. Like, on an individual level, you might have your opinions about somebody who, like, has such strong feelings about a rainbow colored lanyard. But taking someone who just finds it too icky to participate and then sanctioning them for it is a great way for them to take a moral, an aesthetic reaction and moralize it in their own mind.
There's also an interesting thing where I think there's a two-sided thing where it's correct that kind of main right-wing people see pride as like a Machiavelli of absolute sexual madness and of extremism. And, there's an idea of like, they'll often say like, oh, well, homosexuality, like within marriage is fine or whatever, but that's not what they're doing in gay pride. While I think the conception increasingly among gay people is that pride is like completely cucked.
Yeah. New York Pride Parade is not the Folsom Street Fair. I'm not sure it ever was, but it's certainly not in the last 10 years. And I imagine it's similar in most other
like in London, like the gay pride parade is like what do you call the thing with the Macy parade or whatever you have in America?
Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Yeah, that's basically what it is, but just with some gay flavor.
It's all like corporate parade stuff.
Yeah, ultimately capitalism sees opportunities and will commodify everything. We'll turn everything into a sales opportunity. That's just the nature of the system that we live in. Like the same companies that eventually became giant sponsors of gay pride events, give them a few years, and when Trump announces that there's going to be an ice appreciation parade on I don't know what it'll be, like February 2nd or something, or
you put it on Juneteenth.
Yeah, exactly. Just like it used to be Martin Luther, it used to be King Jackson Day in Virginia. So yeah, Juneteenth, Ice Appreciation Day. The same companies will come out and celebrate our brave deporters and kidnappers, right? Everyone will get a ice branded balaclava, and
it'll be the half ones that like only that don't cover your whole head. They just like come up like here, and it's not a good look.
Yeah, they managed to make the whole thing gross, right? Trump
as opposed to all of those really sexy, suave secret police, like
Say what you will about the SS.
At least they dress nice.
Hugo Boss outfits, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Trump is a very interesting guy because he feels like a complete aesthetic failure, despite being probably the president that's most concerned about aesthetics.
Yeah, it's shocking how tacky it all feels. Maybe it's not
what
shocking.
He likes, right? Like that's what he thinks is the shit.
he's Kruger Dunning when it comes to aesthetic tastes, right? He's convinced that he knows what looks good, what sounds good, that he's an excellent arbiter of all things cultural. And yet, right, he really does fall into that fascist kitsch type of zone that Hannah Arendt and Walter Benjamin described, where just like, man, nothing is cool here. And yeah, like I think that one of the great unsung victims of the Trump presidency is the white male teenager who's going to have absolutely hideous and tasteless fashion and like lifestyle role models as a result of all this. Traditional American subcultures all went mainstream and got super commodified. And now the transgressive element is being like a country club douchebag, MAGA hat wearing, pencil neck, Lee Atwater dork that somehow has convinced himself he's a Chad He-Man. Look at us, all four alphas.
I was thinking, Kuba, with your, I think we'll get onto it, your kind of idea of 1990s and early 2000s sexual optimism. I think there was the point where like we'd felt like we'd solved heterosexual sex, and then we just kind of had to solve homosexual sex. And now we're in an era of like immense fear and anxiety around heterosexual sex, which is interesting and maybe unique as opposed to it being framed around heterosexual sex as opposed to like heterosexual marriage or whatever. There's of course been loads of phases of anxiety about like heterosexual marriage, but heterosexual sex specifically and like directly the like heterosexual erotic being a topic of mainstream social anxiety seems like a unique thing.
Yeah, and I think that there was a sort of peak moment of by the time you hit the 90s and certain lessons around safe sex were internalized. So the AIDS and anxiety begins to ebb. You no longer had inherited norms that chided you for violations of sexual purity, right? What's that woman who's trying to sneak that back in? Louise something, the Brit, one of your people.
Doing what, sorry?
So there's a British woman who's married to some lord or investment banker that has made her mission smuggling back in a type of respectability, abstinence, anti-sexual. She's the sexual revolution has been bad for women thing.
Right.
Louise something.
Sure.
Yeah, but that angle was completely dead in the 90s, right? Nobody could take you seriously if you're like, well, I'm keeping myself pure for marriage. That was just kind of ridiculous. There was a lot of anxiety around things like consent, to the extent that, you didn't want to pressure somebody, you didn't want to be a creep, you were worried about
well,
creeps,
I mean, this is also when the anxiety started among men of being like, oh shit, I don't just have to convince a woman to have sex with me, I then have to be good at it, which is like a massive, like almost the main male anxiety up until now, but is a very new thing, but is a really serious concern.
And the thing is too that with the explosion of porn, right, you end up fundamentally shifting it used to be that people would get sex ed for diseases and pregnancy, but then have to figure out all of the actual sex stuff, right? But no sex ed when it came to sex. And now that's provided online for free. Just you need to establish very invasive and intrusive filter functions to keep it out.
Well,
But
you know, they've tried to get rid of it on the British intranet, but it's not worked very well.
yeah, and now too, I think that when there's a general crisis, people don't have their shit together. People don't know what they're doing. Young people have limited opportunities. They often carry substantial amounts of debt. Finding your own place is difficult. Women at this point are doing economically, young women are economically more independent than young men. It is harder and harder to convince a woman that it's a good idea to have sex with you. One, if you're a man. Two, it's harder and harder for women to reach the big titty goth internet thought level where a guy's like, yeah, I'm going to sort of heroically risk my ego because this will be so much better than porn.
Have you guys
No, it's
seen
like,
the GIF that's going around where the caption is "What it feels like to DM a woman"?
I don't think I have, but I can.
I-
I have an image in my head.
Okay, should I describe it? There's a woman on a throne with it's all very kind of early 2000s animated kind of clip art. There's a woman sitting on a throne with kind of like a head on a hand like this, and then there's a gesture in front of her doing this. And this has been an incredibly evocative image for the internet's men.
I mean, I'm
was
surprised
I
that
was just gonna say, I think that there's like a real, there's so much of this that is just completely in the heads of like the, the men who are just engaging with this stuff online, because like, randomly DMing women is probably not like a really, a recipe for great success, at least in terms of, proportionality. But like, I know so many like very like traditionally beautiful women who date like just, kind of schlubby normal looking dudes.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon. And I think that there is like a huge subset of men who don't have like a real sense of socialization or like an ability to properly communicate. And rather than, doing the old, incel cliche of actually working on their personality, they kind of double down on pure interiority and
I mean, I would
almost
say
a kind of like solipsism.
I feel like we kind of in the present moment we don't emphasize how hard it is if you don't have it, how to become properly socialized, especially
Yeah.
Around women, because men
If you don't have
generally,
any, yeah,
because generally men still today learn two forms of sociality, right? Um, I threaten my best friend, Fakey13, with slur-ridden threats of homosexual rape very frequently, and
the
that's
English
something which
hello.
yes, and that's something you can do very much with a guy, but presumably women, even the women who said, "I wish I could have." There's also a common female refrain of like, "I wish I could be friends with a man in the way that men are friends with each other." And I think the lived reality of that would be something which very, very few women actually want.
No.
And I think it's
They want,
possible for poorly socialized
they
guys.
don't appreciate bull jokes.
I think it's possible for poorly socialized guys to socialize with guys in such a way that will never help them socialize with women. They'll never get anywhere, and it's very hard for them to be in any environment where they can learn how to socialize with women.
and the online environment also fundamentally transforms how people relate and what expectations they have, because if your previous dating pool, if your entire imagination of what sexual partners were available and possible was your local at closing time, then this is what you have to pick from, right? It's a finite number. It's a tractable issue. But when it's the entire internet, right, and your imagination can be satisfied with in whatever baroque excesses you indulge, there's not just actual women, there's also people pretending to be actual women, there's bots pretending to be actual women, there's
And
bots
there's
that are
women who
not
are
pretending.
engaged in various complex pretending to be something that they definitely aren't, which are
Yes,
in
there's
part large performances for men, but also large performances for various other bizarre reasons, or for simply having fun. Women also pretend to do bullshit on the internet.
yes. And I think that when it comes to and just like men have artificial expectations of female sexuality, when you brought up like the whole trope, oh, I wish I could be friends with men like men are with one another, they actually, I think a lot of that is based on yaoi and things like the hockey rivalry, right? Like
No.
that's what they're really looking for.
I mean, I think a lot
They
of it is because there's a pleasant, casual regard that men have for each other. But that's something which comes at like a significant cost. Um, where like the fact that I will not see a male friend for years and then see him again and connect exactly as we did before. But that obviously comes along with the fact that because both of us were like, oh, well, I'm not going to bother texting him or whatever. I'll just see him one day. It'll be cool.
Yeah.
While women have this feel like kind of held down by compulsory social relations, but that actually means that they have like a wide range of people they talk to are much more like people are like, oh, why is no one talking about lonely women? And of course, lonely women do exist, but much more common than lonely women who are lonely women in the sense of they don't talk to anyone. Lonely women are instead women that have a large amount of social relations, but they're all incredibly shallow and like feel compulsory on both ends.
Yeah, I think that there's a simultaneously, it's funny, there's an inverse proportion to how seriously you take the need to deliver a proper greeting card or birthday card versus how honestly you can actually discuss your feelings on controversial or challenging topics, right? Like the more you dot your I's and you cross your T's to perform friendship in the most orthodox and appropriate way possible, the less and less uh, sincere expressions of friendship you can muster because you're constantly worried that your perfect friend facade is liable to slip.
So I Fakey13, Nathan, who has been on the show sometimes, been on the podcast before. I don't know if you two remember him. I think you might, Quinn.
Yeah, we've talked a couple times.
Yeah, I think you think. Oh yeah, no, because we
had
were trying to play D&D together.
Yeah, and couldn't get the schedule to work out.
I spend Christmas with his family, specifically his partner's family, because of a collapse of my own. And that plan this year was made by him being like, so what are you doing for Christmas? And I'm like, I'm going to yours, I assume. And he's been like, yeah. That's not how women would have planned such an occasion.
Yeah, I will say back on, not to step back in the conversation, but that's exactly how all of the trans men I know also engage in planning. So, but I think that there's an element in which the kind of performance of like social obligations dovetails with the performance of gender. In that, like the performance of womanhood is much more high maintenance and mirrors much more the socialization and the social life that women tend to have in contemporary society, versus the performance of malehood kind of mirrors the both kind of sometimes intense like emotional intimacy, but huge gaps of kind of isolation
Yeah,
between
I've
men.
seen quite frequent accounts from trans men where they're like, "Oh, now I get left alone," and that's something which is both very nice for them and very tragic at the same time, almost simultaneously.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can pick up a little bit of this just in the different ways that gendered fashion is designed and marketed. For women, right? Like high-end clothing is designed to capture as much attention as possible to make people focus on you. Whereas like a really good suit, I'm not going to talk about the weird couture stuff, which only comes out if you're New York, Paris, or gay. Then what it's designed to do is to make you invisible unless you want to step out of the environment, unless you want to command attention. And then with the quality of detail work and specific tells like shoes, the lining of your jacket, that sort of thing, then people who know read the status that's built in to the sartorial presentation of self. But the I one thing that I sometimes have to tell people is that anonymity can be as valuable as being the center of attention, right? That is also an important consideration. I'm going to blur the back of my screen so my my wife's privacy remains intact.
Exciting. Quinn, did you have more to say?
I mean, responding briefly to Matt in the chat, I am a unrepentant Judith Butler defender. I think that they get a bad rap, but if you read the writing, they're much less dogmatic
Yeah, I
than
don't want to. I
the
don't want to just
reputation they
dog.
receive.
I don't want to just dog on people in chat, but they were like, "Oh, how much of a life of a woman in the third world is a performance of being a woman?" It's like a fucking lot, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I don't think Judith Butler gets enough credit for being like an actually funny and engaging writer.
Mm. I mean, I don't really like Judith
like
Butler, but
I mean, I remember undergrad, I had to read some like like queer theory, and it was just like hurting my brain, and it was like dry and like difficult, and I was struggling. And then I got to Butler, I was like, oh, this is actually like fun to read. I enjoyed this.
Reading, like, for my PhD, I was reading like critical race stuff, and I got to one of them, and I was like, "Oh shit, this guy's a good writer! Thank God!" Like he wasn't any agree.
It is a breath of fresh air.
Probably disagree with the most of any of them. It's the Afro pessimism guy. I can't remember his name.
Which one? Because
the like one that does this is popular literature rather than academic literature.
Frank B. Wilderson.
Yeah, it's probably not Wilkerson. Because I think he's mostly like just academia.
Male or female?
Male.
Orlando Patterson?
No. Go on with the conversation. I can find out in a bit.
Have we entered a period of hetero-pessimism?
Yes, we have.
Hmm?
I think
the pessimism on the shirt.
I think it's interesting because incels as much I've never agreed that incels are a political movement, because there isn't any like political movement. Like there's a lot of political concern, but it's like really fundamentally anti-political. Like the extent of incel political organization is on one hand selling like self-help essentially, or selling on the other hand self-harm, basically, self-pessimism and so on. And on the other extreme, terrorism, essentially. Yeah. But I think without something in the middle, and I think the middle is absent, I don't think it can be called a political movement.
I think that people would like to politicize it, right? There's an awareness that there's some energy here. There's a population of young men who are happy to throw their lives away. However, that's a challenge. If your little internet collective is too nihilistic, you can't get them to do anything.
I think that's what the Fuentes project is. Mm-hmm. Is an attempt to form a kind of political base out of the same kind of internet masses that make up Inceldom.
Yes, and he is. I think he has an advantage in that, and it's funny because I was thinking to myself, like, Nick Fuentes is possibly the first internet influencer who's straight up like, I don't fuck, you know, and it's not because I'm keeping myself pure or anything. It's like, you know, no, I'm a loser like you. And Nick Fuentes,
he might be lying about that.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. He may be lying about that. And I think the counterpart, right, the opposite side of the coin is Tim Pool, because that guy would never say he doesn't fuck. And that guy may be able to speak that with absolute sincerity, right? You know, like neither of these guys are my type, but I definitely see more appeal for Nick Fuentes than for Tim Pool.
Well, for one, he's actually charming.
Yeah. The capable of being funny and not funny, right?
Mm-hmm.
His jokes are actual jokes, even when they're hideously racist. While
I meant
Tim
Coates.
Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Yes.
Yeah, that guy's
not
a great writer.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of a liberal, but like an actually really talented writer.
Like I don't agree with him at all, but like he can actually write.
Yeah, and that guy fucks. That guy definitely fucks in his French chateau, no less. Yeah. Maybe we should start wrapping up. I don't. I'm not going to be.
We'll be going for an hour and 40.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I thought this one was going to be like an epic marathon. I was prepared for that, but we're not like constantly rushing each other to speak on our favorite sex topic. Should we talk about birth rates before we finish?
I think birth rates would be an excellent bridge to the traditional means of wrapping up, which is, of course, race guesser.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, we could guess the race and then guess the birth rate.
The TFR.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we're doing that, we're already just kind of we're guessing the socioeconomic makeup of the region, because I'm pretty sure it kind of directly correlates. You know, peripherized nation, slightly higher. The lighter your complexion gets, unless you're in like, you know.
But I think there would be surprises, right? Like, for instance, the ignorant might think that the Polish have like a decent TFR when they definitely don't.
That's true. I feel like, and there's going to be some. I want to say Dagestan probably has pretty high birth rates, but I don't know that for sure.
Oh yeah, and I think it's basically Muslims that can maintain for now a decent reproduction rate, though that's only outside of not only new European Muslims can do it. Like the Bosnians have like a reproduction rate of 0. Do you guys actually want to do race guesser?
I'm down.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
I mean, I was promised there would be race guesser.
Someone else will have to look up have a TFR list because I don't have enough kind of facilities to.
Or are we actually going to be comparing them?
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Yeah.
We may as well keep it to
Right.
Get a twofer going.
Share screen. FNoGuesser. Share screen. Okay, people in chat hyped. Should I can I make them bigger now? Big, wide, tall. The thing is, it's a bit annoying because you can make it tall or whatever, but it doesn't actually make it any. Fundamentally, they're limited the same amount of screen room. It's just divided in different manners.
Okay.
Since
resolution, we're just changing the aspect ratio.
Yeah. I assume we're still doing it. That I'm moderating and you two are guessing.
Yes.
I feel ill prepared.
What could you do
life has prepared
for this quiz?
I don't know. I don't know how I'm prepared.
Walk around New York.
No, I've been visiting California. I mean, if I'm not guessing different parts of Southeast Asia, then I feel I miss the outer boroughs.
Yeah, I'm glad that you guys are picking because I could go so many ways with this one and be completely wrong.
Yeah.
I should make my own guess though. Just say it when you guys have picked.
All right. I've got my guess. I'll just say it out loud and rely on your honor. I'm guessing Sulawesi or Ambon. So in that triangle of smaller islands between Indonesia and Papua New Guinea.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably a better guess than mine. I honestly, I kind of want to guess Madagascar.
Not bad.
Just
someone else in chat said Malagasy.
I don't feel good about that, but that's where my mind went.
Yeah, I really didn't. It was also one of those ones where the man and the woman look like they're different races. Like she looks African and he decidedly does not. Like he looks Indian. So I think you're both correct to kind of go with triangulate between those two. Which one should I actually put in the map?
Drop it in Madagascar. At least it'll be clean.
Oh, so Kuba's way more right, but still wrong.
Yeah, paleo melanizid. I'm probably with the neo-melanicids, right?
And I think this is actually an interesting TFR birth rate question. What is the birth rate of those Pacific islands?
So there's I'm looking at the TFR right now by country, and the reality is that you've got a place like Nauru or Vanuatu. I would guess that judging where that one is, we might be talking Vanuatu. And the Pacific Islands in that zone have got about a 3.6. So they're growing substantially, but it's a tiny base. And some of them are experiencing, like Kiribati, for instance, that might go all the way to 0 because those islands will cease to exist at some point in the imaginable future.
So it's saying New Caledonia is like the key zone for these people.
New Caledonia. And it'll be interesting because that birth rate a New Caledonia birth rate will be contaminated by the
Yeah, because it
diversity
also says
of
that they've become a minority in their own homeland or whatever. It's
yeah
so over
the
for paleo Beliansids.
wah, wah.
Or
the so live births per 100 people is down to 1.33.
in New Caledonia.
But that's it feels confusing because that's a weird way of calculating that. Here they have live births per 1,000 people, and it went from in the 1960s it was at 37.31, and now it's at 13.33. So the plunging, and the annual percent change between 2023 and 2024 dropped by almost 6%.
I think this is another incredibly hard round that you two have got.
Oh,
Damn.
okay. I want to say Hawaii.
That didn't pass my mind.
I want to
Or
say
maybe Tongan. No, that guy
I
looks
want to
Hawaiian to me.
say Malaysia.
Okay, we'll put down Kuba's guess this time, but where are you going for in the end, Quinn?
I'm sticking with Hawaii.
Yeah, I mean, because this must be like some minority in Malaysia, but I don't suppose it matters where I click regardless. So it'll probably be a quite widely distributed one. I'll put it in the hills, but it'll be the same difference everywhere. So you're going Hawaii, Quinn?
I think so.
Oh, you're both thinking along the right lines, but I think
Yeah, if we split the difference only.
Yeah.
Man, they really love forcing you to deal with tiny island populations, eh?
yeah, because it's a thing of like each people, no matter how small or large, has an equal chance of being picked, right?
Mm. And that's North Maluku.
So that's down to Indonesia, but over here the actual island is
Palau?
I can't even look. So it's due directly east of the Philippines.
So I noticed that Koror was
Oh,
a
Federated
city
States of Micronesia.
Micronesia. They have a Micronesia has a birth rate of 2.7, right? Like it's an American protectorate of some kind, and the McDonald's is getting to them slowly working.
Robert, it's completely correct that what we're doing now is entirely politically problematic. And I assume that is part of that is probably mostly the entirety of the joy that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're both currently
We're
on
doing
team
the bad
zero.
thing.
Yes. Oh, interesting.
Ooh.
It's also nice when you can make out a bit of their traditional dress.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that I think that the guys look so different because I'm seeing so much weird ghosting around it.
Yeah.
I do think he looks like Tommy Cash.
Yes. You the Estonian rapper?
Yeah, no, which makes me want to say Estonia.
Yeah.
The interesting. I was going to go with the Kola Peninsula, just south of Murmansk.
That's interesting because I was going to go Caucasian. So we'll go with Quinn's guess this time. So do you want Estonia?
Yeah. Put it in Tallinn, like right on the coast.
Yeah, I think that
I feel like there's a chance that they're more northern, but
the difference is just that I'm suggesting a wild Ugrofin from the Lapland community, whereas you're suggesting a lowland civilized
But
Ugro-Finn.
are none of them blonde either way?
A lot of them are blondes, but not all of them. That's why
I
I
guess
do.
it's
I'm making out like a consistent scarf. So whatever it is, it's probably a little chilly.
Yeah. But you know, the Caucasus is chilly too.
Yeah, I'm going with the north because of
Ah,
Lapid. Yeah, I named it.
I think that's a draw.
I think it is a draw.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll take it. I mean, I think that the Kuba's a little bit more in terms of like on center, but we're both a little
Well,
off.
I think Kuba's closer to a red area, but you're closer to where the arrow is.
Mm.
And also, what the fuck do you mean that they live in Ukraine too?
I think what's
Like,
going
okay,
what may
they
have-
were taken as slaves to Iceland, but how? What do you mean they're in Poland and like that? Because okay, like also maybe they were taken as slaves to Brittany, and maybe they were taken as slaves in Poland, but what otherwise?
maybe they joined the slavers.
Yeah. Traces possibly even in Carpathians, French, and Basques. Okay, so I think it's just like
Wishful thinking.
We don't know. We're gonna do.
As it turns out, race science
fiction.
is not. It's kind of bullshit, guys.
Wait, really?
Race science isn't an exact science.
Oh my god, I am shocked.
It's
I
more
am
like a
shocked.
social science.
So Finland.
Okay, sorry, I forgot to do that. Let's don't look at those people. Think about birth rates.
1.3.
Because I think Norway's was quite strong until very recently.
Norway's 1.4. And as male relatives of mine like to incessantly point out, much of that is driven by large families among recent immigrant groups.
Yeah.
So, not real Finns or Scandinavians. But yeah, it's
some of the most
tiny
cringe
birth rate up there.
discussion is every 4 years at the Olympics where like a black Swede or whatever wins an event, and it's just like so dull, the conversation.
Yes. Yeah, I think that there should be more of a ceremony, more of a symbolic dimension to citizenship, to issuing citizenship into a country. Like if you're going to become a Swede, like maybe part of it is like, so here's a replica Viking boat and you have to make it to that island. Your passport's on that island. Go.
I thought you were going to say, here's the hair dye. But yeah, no, actually, I think the Olympics should be based on your oid category as given by this website.
Yeah, you have to be able to present your haplogroup on demand.
We're going to build a phrenologist robot to assign you which team you go on in the Olympics.
What do you think about these two fellas?
I want to say Yemeni.
Oh, interesting.
I feel like this guy owns a bodega, and like there's music kind of playing in the back, but I can never make out exactly what type it is because it's too loud in the front.
What I would like, what I would put them in that little zone between Bangladesh and Nepal within India.
Oh,
so I think we're going with Kuba's guess this time. I was gonna go kind of just like mainline India, like maybe like here-ish or like there, something like that. And Kuba, you want it here?
A little further to the northwest, but not Yeah, there. Perfect.
Oh,
Damn!
Let's go! I'm back.
Killer
back,
for
baby.
Quinn.
I'll take the
Arabian
L. Right?
Vedoid. Oh my god, these names are insane.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they were in June.
There's a is there a dot in Sri Lanka?
No,
No.
there's one on Secroto, whatever that's called.
Yes.
No, there's. I think
And-
there's just the very top of the YouTube chat fading away.
Quinn, what is the TFR? What's the birth rate per woman difference between Oman and Yemen?
I'm gonna say maybe one. Like I think it
One.
might be like one or two.
Yeah. What's the
Apparent-
what's the truth?
So Yemen is 4.6 and Oman is 2.5. So the difference is 1.5 Western families.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, that's full blown Quinn.
Hey, some real Asians. Yeah, so currently,
I don't
depending
know,
on guessing,
dude.
you're either on 2 and 1 or 1 and 0. If you want to do shared points or not, we'll do shared points.
Yeah, let's do shared points.
You're thinking Asian? I'm thinking Latin American.
Oh, really? Well, don't listen to me.
Honestly, like maybe even Central or North. Like, I kind of want to put it in Texas or like near the border.
Now I'm thinking Alaska.
I mean,
I'm happy for you to make that choice.
Man on the left has ridden horses all the way to Asia Minor. Like maybe, unfortunately, his ancestors went the wrong way and then accidentally ate all the horses, and then he was horribly deprived of that. And I'll take the L. But I believe in this man's Eurasian conquering genetics.
Okay, put him in Alaska for me. I'm going with Alaska.
Where are you going, Quinn?
I think I'm gonna go U.S. Just like around the southern border, but you know,
wherever the most
around
densely
there.
packed ICE detention facility is located.
Oh, let's go! Quinn is back in it. I'm very sad that these men's ancestors left the Eurasian steppe. Though I guess
okay, yeah.
they were deprived of horses for a while, but as soon as the Europeans brought them back, they were like, "No, we're back on it. We're back on it."
Because the Spanish lost control of their horses and they just spread through the whole continent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Damn.
So we're albinism comparatively common. Bullseye. Interesting.
So the Native American birth rate is 1.47 births per woman.
Huh. And that's less than the general American one? Well, you've got like 1.78 generally, or?
The American birth rate for across all groups is 1.6. So they're just a little bit under. Native Americans are just a little bit under the national whole.
And you imagine that's with like very sharp variance between the top and the bottom.
Yeah. Khoisan.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe South Australia. Or like somewhere else in Oceania.
What do you think, Kuba?
Or I don't know, maybe Outback.
I want to say Kalahari, Khoisan, so northern South Africa, but I do see where Quinn is is going for, because I'm not going to say anywhere else in Africa, right? Not Uganda,
You
not
don't think they're
Nigeria.
Algerian?
No. I don't. Somehow I'm not seeing it, right? Maybe like somebody put a fez on that man. Yes, Morocco. No, so I'm going for the like northern strip along the Namibian Botswanan border, but yeah, Aboriginal Australanesia is also very persuasive.
Big risk from Kuba here. I mean, I think the only reasons you didn't completely crush last time, that you won in the end, but the reason you didn't completely crush was it kept being
Adamant Islanders, man.
yeah, it kept
Bullshit.
being this sort of you kept guessing like proper Africans and they weren't. We're going here, did you say?
That'll do.
Yeah. Oh
No, it's Quinn's day. It's Quinn's day.
I think I've settled on Outback, and that's not Outback, but
I was gonna say yeah, like
I'm
Quinn
definitely
is
closer.
actually not correct, but like
Yeah.
if it's a draw, we'll give it to him for certainly because you went correctly that they were an Australian people.
Mm-hmm.
The Tasmanids.
Oh right, that's why they look like that because the last photos we have of them are from 1876.
Yeah. The Tasmania, it's a beautiful island. It's an amazing place. So much road
Yeah,
trip.
so that would be
And all
a
of it
TFR
delicious.
of 0.
Yeah. The it's hard to do fertility for an extinct group.
No. Oh yeah, and some people don't know if they were like if they were melanized or they were whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Okay, don't be like, oh,
Okay.
these guys are actually these are actually Native Americans.
No, I think that these are actually Asians. Oh God.
Shandong province.
I'm gonna say south of that. Like, put me in like, put me in Thailand, I guess.
Oh right, so out of China entirely.
Yeah.
Were we like northeast Thailand? Where were we going?
I mean, I don't know, man.
You don't know,
Like,
so I'll
about
put it in
there
the
is
central point then.
about there is good enough
Yeah. And
because
well,
I feel like I just don't know, and then that's like,
well, Kuba, you're saying what? Southern China?
No, I'm saying Shandong province. It's the peninsula that's.
Oh wow. Okay. Here.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
mm-hmm.
Oh, it's another one.
Okay.
Wow.
I was actually on the verge of saying, wait, maybe I want to change to South Korea, but
Oh,
I didn't.
Damn,
that was
man.
game master error. Game master error. I didn't make him lock it in. He would have locked himself out if I made him lock it in.
I can't say in general, but I know who's having sex with the programmers.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna guess like here, so would have done right that one.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, they seemed way too dark to be Northern Chinese to me.
I thought that might be an aggregation.
But also,
issue,
you remember,
but...
Quinn, these are like official photographs, so people like whiten themselves quite a lot on them.
Yeah.
Mongolian fold weak.
Yeah, that's why they never conquered Eurasia.
Short, often depressed. It's like, wow, you get that from a picture? I'm not saying you're wrong.
This is the zone of like no states or whatever, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
but
like from southern Tibet through to the triple border the Golden Triangle. That's
Yeah.
where the
Yeah.
opium comes from.
Yeah, I was gonna say. You could,
I think
great narco traffickants in this area.
I guess
it's funny,
the guy did look a little bit like Prince Sihanouk.
Mm. Can we get them back? Can you get the picture back? Yeah, you can. Yeah, actually, yeah, he does. Ooh.
Oh, okay.
Greenland.
Alaska.
Okay.
For
Okay,
fuck's
I mean,
sake.
I guess that's,
Okay.
that's basically
Not
it.
Alaska, but I think I'm closer.
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
it is
you've,
Alaska a bit.
Oh,
not
there is some
really,
Alaska. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just where the only people are in Alaska.
But these are the classic figure of Soviet joke.
The
As,
Chukchid.
they're like the noble savages.
Mm-hmm.
There's my favorite one, which is very apt for our present moment, is when a chucker he goes to the Russian Literature Association against to gain membership, and they're like, "Oh, have you read this? Have you read the Russian Writers Association? Have you read Pushkin? Have you read blah blah blah? Have you read this? Have you read that?" And he's like, "No, no, 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 no." And they're like, "Oh, how can you? Well, how are you claiming? Why are you trying to get membership of us if you don't read anything?" He's, well, Chucker is writer. Chucker, not reader.
Yes.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, we're back to the whites. I feel like I've seen this guy multiple times just at random bars in Brooklyn.
Austrian borderland with Slovakia.
Okay. Sweden, maybe.
Okay. You locking that in, Quinn?
Sure. I don't have a better guess, so I'm gonna go Sweden.
My Twitch reaction was Hungary, but then I'm wondering if they're actually Irish travelers. Who I don't know if they would fit as a distinct oid in this. So
Criminal Lloyd.
Quinn, we're going Sweden, but where do you want it exactly?
Put it up a little closer to Norway, like kind of in the middle, because I just don't. Yeah, sure. I was aim for center mass.
What the hell?
God damn it, motherfucker!
I didn't think there was a chance in hell Quinn was right.
Yeah,
I was with you 100% there, Kuba.
Okay, I've got the mandate of heaven.
You do. All I can do is commit seppuku and shame. I mean, I can't even get the white people straight.
Oh my god. And I did so poorly last time on the whites.
Yeah. I mean, and even in the first game, the only time you weren't completely winning was I was beating you on the whites the first time we played.
Mm-hmm.
But no, you found the little hilltop Valhalla, right?
Yeah, like who the hell are these people? Why are they ginger?
Yeah, I know.
Are they ginger? I thought that was just a kind of artifact. I thought they were mostly dark hair.
It might be artifacting between blondes and browns, but he does look a bit ginger, doesn't he? God damn.
Too round.
Holy shit.
Huh.
I want to say maybe Ivory Coast.
I think this is a don't get fancy round.
Yeah, put me somewhere up there. Let's say Cote d'Ivoire.
What are you saying, Kuba?
I'm going Malawi, Great Lakes region.
Ooh. Really, well, not Malawi, but Uganda. Very fun start in Europa Universalis 5. You fine with West Coast, or you want to be on the other side of the lake?
That's fine.
Okay.
Quinn's going to be right anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm on the edge of it, but yeah.
Look, Ivory Coast. You said Ivory Coast, right?
I
That's
did.
Northern Ivory Coast.
Upland
Right?
Ivory
You
Coast
get
is
the
right,
point.
innit?
Right?
Wow.
You disgust me, sir.
I mean, that was not a perfect game with Quinn, but that was like 8 out of 10 or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm
was
going to beat that
formidable.
anytime soon.
Yeah, because I think you flubbed maybe like the first round or something.
Okay, I need to go. I need to get going.
All right.
All right.
Well, it's been a pleasure.
My humiliation has been too extreme. All right. Take care, gentlemen. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Should we say goodbye to the chat? Do you have anything else that you wanted to end the show with?
Well, nothing on sex or race or anything else, but rather just pointing ourselves forward. Do you have any ideas? Does the chat have anything for next week? What was I thinking about recently? I don't think I can remember it. You don't have any ideas off the top of the head, I assume?
Nothing off the top of my head, but I'll brainstorm and text you.
Yeah, just trying to. I got the video loaded. No, I don't have the outro video loaded.
Everyone who's been active in the chat, thank you for your participation.
Actually, one thing you might have already left, but congratulations to Cholg's Ghost 1683 on their engagement.
Congratulations.
Hopefully, someone tells them that we did this, or they watch the VOD.
We'll see.
Maybe I'm overestimating how joyful our.
Oh no!
Oh no! They're still here. Let's go.
Woo! All right.
Cool. Well, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you all. And we'll see you in 2026.
Yeah. Oh my God. Sorry.
Bye.
Start eating that trash can.
I already am eating from the trash can all the time.